Hello. It's Leila here. And I just wanted to give you a little shout out and say Happy Memorial Day. I hope it's been a beautiful day for you. I hope it's been sweet, and maybe you've thought about some people who have served our nation and passed away in support of what they felt was the most honorable and noble thing that maybe they could ever do. I want to tell you a little story about my grandmother. I was thinking about my grandmother today. What's up, Nate? So good to see you, honey. I was thinking about my grandmother, and I would love to actually I'm curious, do you guys have any stories from your grandparents about war, or from parents or anybody, family members, about war and like what happened? And I'll just tell you a brief little story. And I remember my grandmother, grandfather, they're passed. A lot of people have passed in my families. So they're not here anymore to talk about the war and stuff. But I remember when I was younger, here's what I want to tell you. I remember when I was younger, I asked my grandma when I was starting to think about war. Like, we learned about it in school, but when I was in college, it was actually during my master's degree, when I started to really feel into what's going on with this whole war thing. What have been the World War I, World War II, Palestine and Israel, all of this war stuff. When I was about 25 or so, 24, 25, I got really interested. I was fascinated. Before, I just took tests, learned and took tests in school and forgot it. This time was different. I really wanted to understand what was going on historically and even back then, because I moved to New York after 9/11, or right before 9/11, and so all of a sudden there was war, and I was very anti-war. And I wanted to understand war better so that I could grasp it. It just didn't make sense to me why people would kill people. So I asked my grandmother. I said, Grandma Aggie had pink bangs when she died, and she got a tattoo on her foot when she was 80 years old. Hilarious. Her first tattoo at 80. So you never know, friends, if something's coming. You never know. You might decide when you're 80 years old to do something wild. I asked my grandma, I said, Grandma, did everybody know somebody that was in the war during World War II? My grandfather paratrooped in D-Day on Normandy and was knighted by the Queen of Holland, and pulled his commanding officer out of battle, saved his life, and all this stuff. He was interviewed by Dan Rather, really, in a book, all sorts of cool stuff. What's up, Kelly, Kathleen, Michael? So good to see you. So I asked my grandmother, I said, did you know somebody, did everybody know somebody that was in a war? And this is what she said. She said, not only did everybody know somebody, we were always scared, because there would be somebody walking down the street, a military man, knocking on a door, sharing the information about the soldier who had passed in the war. So not only did they all know somebody that was in the war, they were affected a lot by it day to day, because there was always a fear of somebody's going to walk down the street and tell you your brother, your uncle, your cousin is gone. And I thought, wow, we don't have that right now. We're not in a place where we're worried about somebody coming down the street and knocking on our door and telling us one of our loved ones has passed. We don't have that. And that's fascinating to me. So I just want to share and be curious, what stories do you have about your grandparents, about your uncles, right? Some of the people in your family maybe, who stepped up in full belief that they were doing something that was really important for us. So I'd be curious what your stories are, because I think it's just interesting. I mean, I have all sorts of stories about the war, my grandfather. But this one was so fascinating to me, that every single person would know somebody in the war and be concerned about being told they were, no longer here. I'm really grateful to live in a time where I feel safe as a woman, I feel safe as a human, to live in a country that even though many people are unhappy about things going on, it's an amazing place. We've got food, we've got water. I know there are people suffering. I'm not trying to diminish that by any means. But this is different. Life is good. I know I keep saying this. I think I did a video yesterday about it. But life is better than you think. We're not worried about people dying on battlefields right now. So we are, there's violence going on around the world. But it's not right here. We're not scared right now about somebody coming in and waging war on our ground. Maybe some people are, but it's not a heavy burden we're facing right now like people have in the past. And so I just want to reach out and tell you that little story and tell you I'm grateful to be an American. I am very American. I used to be upset about America and all the laws and all the things and us being so American around the world. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so proud. I am so grateful. There's always room to grow, of course. But I'm definitely grateful to be in a country where there have been people of my past that have stood up and been so brave so that we don't have to face war and death and strife like that right now. So grateful. So I would love to hear your stories about your family and the wars. I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. Different times, different perspectives, and I'm grateful. So I'd love to hear what you're grateful for too. Okay? I'll talk to you soon. Bye!